A defense official tells CBS News the Pentagon is sending in another 1,000 troops to Karzai International Airport in Kabul. That brings the number of authorized American troops in Afghanistan to 6,000. About 3,000 are already on the ground. The airport is America's last toehold in Afghanistan. The Taliban has overrun the capital city, Kabul, and taken over the presidential palace. President Ashraf Ghani has left the country, and a Taliban official says the group will soon announce the formation of the Islamic Emirate of Afghanistan. There have also been reports of gunfire at Karzai International Airport. The U.S. Embassy moved its operations there over the weekend. Officials have instructed Americans to shelter in place. Sources tell CBS News that 10,000 American civilians need to be evacuated from Kabul. CBS News correspondent Christina Ruffini joins us now for more on this. Christina, thanks for joining us. We've learned that the Karzai airport in Kabul is now being run by the U.S. military. What's the U.S. government's plan to evacuate Americans out of Afghanistan?
I think from what we're learning, it appears to be a plan in progress, right? They've taken over the airspace at the airport so they can better control and pick up the tempo of these evacuation flights that they need to start getting out. As you mentioned, sources told me earlier today, up to 10,000 civilians need to come out. And that's not including the SIV applicants. Those are those Afghans who worked for the U.S. as translators or helped the U.S. in some way over this 20-year conflict. The numbers range, but it could be between 40,000 and 60,000 Afghans who qualify for those visas and would need to leave the country out of fear of reprisal by the Taliban. Now, it is hard to process those visas when the U.S. has a full embassy contingent. At the moment, that embassy, that $2 billion American facility, is all but shuttered. It's sealed. The staff has moved to a small airplane hangar at the airport where they're going to try to facilitate visas and getting people out of the country. But the State Department has put out an order that they want everybody out of the country at the end of the month. So that gives them a very small window to process tens of thousands of visas and try to airlift about 10,000 civilians out of the country.
Christina, the U.S. military stepped up its evacuation of American diplomatic and civilian staff. How long could it take to get people out of Kabul?
I'm sorry, how long did it or how long could it?
How long is everyone out at this point? Is there still more work to do?
No, absolutely not. There's a ton of work to do still. And that's why you saw that shelter-in-place alert. I mean, judging by the messages I'm getting from former colleagues, diplomats, strangers, friends messaging me saying, I'm an American citizen, I'm stuck in Kabul. My friends are American citizens, they went to visit, they're stuck in Kabul. My brother is an American citizen, can you help him get on the plane? The embassy is not answering its phone. The only way to alert the U.S. government that you're an American in Kabul and you need to leave is to go on this website and fill out a form and hope that someone sees it and they're in the queue for an evacuation. Look, we saw this during COVID, right? We saw when the State Department did this massive airlift for citizens from all around the country when borders were shutting down. It took a while to get up and running. At the beginning of that process, it was very inefficient, it was very scattered, and it was very hard to get a flight or any information. That's kind of where, anecdotally and from our side, this seems to be at this point. These flights are getting ready to go, they're getting ready to pick up the tempo, but there are a lot of Americans and a lot of civilians still in Kabul, not sure how they're getting out. And again, there are more Afghans, both who qualify for these special immigration visas, or Afghans who were journalists, women, educators who know that they are not going to get along well with the Taliban, who fear for their lives, who've been told, okay, you can apply for refugee status, but in order to do that, you have to do it for from a third country. There's no way to get out of the city. There's no way to get out of Afghanistan to a third country. And it's really a problem. It's a very precarious situation, and it has happened very, very quickly. When we were working on this earlier in the week, the deadline I was given on Friday was, maybe within the next 72 hours. And then a few hours later, I heard, okay, well, it's going to be 36 hours. Then I got moved up to 48. Anybody who was planning for, I don't want to say a luxurious, but a decently fast exit from Kabul in the next 48 hours or so is now thinking they need to get out now. So the problem is everybody who has any kind of resources is trying to rush to the airport to try to see if they can get a commercial flight, to see if they can get on a transport, to see if they can talk the Americans to giving them a visa and letting them get on a plane. And it's going to be a very rough couple days, and it's going to be a very hard airlift, and it's going to take a while. So the U.S. has to make sure they secure that airport and they keep it safe because they're going to need it, I would say, at least through the end of the week.
And you mentioned those special immigrant visas. Any sense of, are we talking days, weeks, these Afghan citizens who helped provide aid for so many years, is there any sense of how long it could take to get them the visas they need?
Well, the process does take long, and that's something the administration has admitted. And that's why you're seeing these flights, about 200 at a time, about 1,200 of these SIV applicants who are in the middle of the process, because it's a 13-step process, have been flown to the U.S. They're being housed at Fort Lee so that they can finish that process in safety. Now they have a greater number of people, and they need to find a safe third country, or the territory of Guam has offered to take them, or somewhere in the U.S. that they can go while they finish this process and while they finish being vetted. Because the last thing the Americans want to do is put people on the plane who could then pose a risk either to America, to the plane, to the people at whatever secure facility they take them. So they can't just put anyone on the plane. They have to have some sort of way to vet them. And all that paperwork and all that processing takes time, and that's time most Afghans don't have.
Now, according to a senior Afghan Interior Ministry official, President Ghani had left for Tajikistan. Do we know if the State Department was aware of Ghani's movement ahead of time?
I don't. I have heard reports that he is in Tajikistan. It's all second sourcing. CBS News does not have that confirmed at this point. We have heard that Ghani's exit was part of a negotiating strategy with the Taliban, trying to come to some sort of political settlement. That's also not confirmed at this time. The fact of the matter, he's out of the country and the Taliban are in the presidential palace. And that pretty much tells you all you need to know. The U.S. and our allies and diplomats are going to be camped out at that airport until they feel like they have gotten enough people out of the country, or they feel like it's so insecure they can no longer stay. So we really have to watch that Karzai International Airport closely. We have to see if it stays secured, if it stays operational, and if it doesn't, and the U.S. leaves, once the U.S. ambassador leaves, once every U.S. diplomat is out of there, that ends the options for all these Afghans trying to get visas from inside the country.
Now, we got a statement for the president Saturday. What has the Biden administration had to say about all the developments Sunday?
Well, we haven't heard from the president again. Secretary of State Antony Blinken was on many Sunday shows today, and he defended the president's policy. He defended the decision to withdraw. He said, look, if we'd done it 20 years from now, this would have been the same reaction. He said, we're trying to keep our people safe. He did admit, however, that the Taliban made progress faster than they had anticipated. And that's something that's really going to be looked at, and that's something we're hearing from a lot of lawmakers, especially Republicans on Capitol Hill. How is there such an epic intelligence failure that the United States didn't know that the army, the Afghan National Army that we've spent decades and billions of dollars training, wasn't going to fight back in a lot of these places? How did U.S. intelligence know that the Taliban would be met with almost no resistance in so many of these provinces? How didn't the United States know that this was going to happen when they announced they were going to leave? And that's really the question that I think is going to continue to be asked, and will be the subject of congressional hearings and will be written about from years to come.
Christina Ruffini reporting from the White House. Thank you.
Thank you.